Fauzi Akbar. On behalf of the President and the members of Town Trotting, here in Mombasa, but we're grateful, ma'am, that you are here.
Members of the Fiji Medical Association, senior government officials, invited and distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, Nisambula Vinaka, and a very good morning to you all. First of all, please accept my sincere apologies for the delay in arriving here at the World. As you all know, we had the National Constitution Day celebrations in Mombasa, and one of the, actually there were 3 students who came and presented on what the Constitution means to them, and all 3 of them touched on health. And that's the good things about health, that the Constitution makes health affordable, the Constitution ensures that health is accessible and available to our people. So what I wanted to say here is it's a pleasure to be in a room full of professionals, and professionals in the medical field, experts in the medical field, and the important role that you play in providing service to our fellow Fijians here and across the region. So thank you very much, and Dr. Wanga, thank you very much for the invite, and I'm sure you've had 2 fruitful days of discussions, and you're also looking for a good conclusion to your conference. So ladies and gentlemen, it's a pleasure for me to be here and talk a little bit about this session, how to improve the health system, making medicine safe. And like I said, you're very important people because you have a very important role in providing this essential service to our people. As the largest service provider of the health services in the country, our Ministry of Health and Medical Services, I believe it's very essential to have a robust health system to lead and drive quality healthcare and wellness in Fiji. But I think most of you know more about the health system in Fiji than probably me, because you've been in the system for a long, long time. Of course, you know there's no perfect health system, and Fiji's health system is not that perfect because of the challenges that we face, and it's very important to accept that. And when we accept the fact that there are gaps that needs to be addressed, I'm sure with discussions, fruitful discussions and collaborations, we should be able to pave a better way for the future and service delivery of that. So when we look at any robust health system, ladies and gentlemen, I think we're looking at a system that is responsive to the needs of its people. And today, it's very important to understand what the needs of our population is, what the need of the country is, and of course, it is very important for the enhancement of healthcare facilities. While we talk about that, we need to look at healthcare technologies, we need to look at people. I think this is one ministry that is people-centered, because you are the ones who are delivering services to the people. And how do we deliver the best care through best practice standards, and how do we constantly strive to better our deliveries every day? At this point, please allow me to thank all our stakeholders that continue to work with the Fijian government, that continue to work with the Ministry of Health in ensuring that we are able to provide that service. And on that note, please also allow me to thank you all on behalf of the Government of the Day and the Ministry of Health and Medical Services for the wonderful work that you do. You and I both know that we are under constant public scrutiny. And probably our health system is one of those systems that is constantly under public criticism, because we are dealing with people, we are dealing with emotions, we are dealing with life and death. And but at the end of all this, I think we must all acknowledge the fact that a lot of good work is being done. A lot of good work is being done within our health systems. While we are trying to improve infrastructure, while we are trying to improve our procurement facilities to ensure that drugs and medicines are safe and readily available, there still exist those gaps that we need to address. And like I said, regardless of that, regardless of the pressing issues when it comes to resources and other stuff, your association, your profession is doing great work in saving the lives of our people. Many a times, it may go unrecorded, it may go unnoticed. One wrong that you might or might not do goes overboard. The good that you do in your daily life often is unrecognized. So please allow me to thank you all for the good work that you do. Dr. Wanga, you and your, where's Dr. Wanga? He's hiding somewhere. I thought he was here. Dr. Wang, thank you very much for the commendable work that your members do and all those associates present in the room. I've always acknowledged this fact that working in the health sector, whether you're a minister, whether you're a permanent secretary, whether you're a DS, or whether you're a clinician, or anybody, is not easy. The expectations of our people is very high. And that sets the benchmark of where we need to go. Like I mentioned earlier on, a robust health system looks at being responsive to the needs of the population. With the emergence of new diseases, emergence of new challenges, where do we go? We have a very young workforce. I'm sure you agree with that. We have a very young workforce. So the quality of medical professionals that come out from our main teaching facilities is very important. The curriculum that is taught to our young graduates is very important. The training that is provided, the mentorship that is provided to our young graduates is also very important. So these are some of the things I'm sure your association is going to look at and see how we can better things. So to this end, what we are talking about, how to improve systems, we've taken a number of significant steps in the recent past to enhance the services that we provide to our people. And again, if I go to those steps, I'd also like to thank all the visiting teams, the overseas visiting teams, all those Fijians who have migrated and who come back to serve our people. I'd also like to record my appreciation for them. Over the years, I mean, I've been here for less than 2 years in this ministry, but my experience has shown that for so many decades, we've been having visiting consultants, we've been having visiting specialists who come and fill in the gaps for those services that we can't provide, for those specialized skill sets that we don't have. But something that worries me is how much of that knowledge, how much of that skill have we been able to retain in the country? I think that has been very slow. So we need to walk with that, with the skills that enter the country through these visiting surgeons and teams. We are in a discussions to see how best our people can be trained, or how best they can be exposed to training internationally, so that they can come back and serve the people. Otherwise, come 20 years down the lane from here, we'll say, okay, we only have one neurosurgeon, we'll say that. We'll say, oh, we only have one nephrologist. What about cardiac service? There's so much demand for that. So those are some of the things we need to look at. Otherwise, like I said, in the coming 2 decades, we'll be still stuck here. The way forward is to build our country's skill sets. And I think that's one of the changes that we are looking at. So, like I said, I'd like to thank all the overseas specialist team, and I think there's one team in the country at the moment. New Zealand Heart? Yes, the heart specialists are here. And so, it's very important for us to understand the passion that these teams have for us. They come, they pay their own fares, they bring the equipment, they share our facilities, and they operate on our people and make them well. Imagine if the country had to send these patients overseas for treatment. Last year, again, looking at the figures of the specialist surgeries or treatment needed by our people, we sent a lot of people to Australia, New Zealand, and India. India being our most favored country because of cost implications. So, and based on that, we managed to get an increase in the ministry's budget, so we can send more people overseas. And we've seen a trend on people needing cardiac services, specialized cardiac services that is not available here. And we send a lot of Fijian families abroad for treatment. So those are some of the things like we'd like to see built in Fiji in future. So ladies and gentlemen, changes within the ministry that I've seen over the past 4, 5, let's say 10 years, building new infrastructure. We have very old infrastructure. I visited Bar Hospital that was, I think, built in 1940. Well, I stand to be corrected here. I think 1946 something, Bar Mission Hospital was built. So I walked across the facilities and I said to myself, why have we waited so long to build another new facility? The population is continuing to grow. I mean, the facilities that we build today may not be able to sustain the services in the next 20 years. Because if you look at the growth of population, it's growing. Look at the new CWM hospital. That was built during the war times. Who thought that the population of the Suvarnasori corridor would be that high? We have issues within the facility, we have issues with bed shortages, there's a lot of issues coming up. So the planning for the next 20 years probably has to start now. And you need to be actively involved in planning for the future because you are part of that. And that's the reason we are trying to include more stakeholder partnerships in ensuring that we plan for better. The new maternity unit that's going to be built in CWM, is it going to sustain the population demand in the next 25 years? Again, we need professional advice from you. So building infrastructure is not just going to be building blocks there. It has to be new, it has to be modern, it has to have state-of-the-art technology. And to run that, we will need people. We'll need professionals who are equipped with that skill set. Everybody's roles is properly defined. And that's we are trying to strengthen within the ministry now with restructures coming in place. You know what you're supposed to do. And that's where I think the civil service reforms are going to help us. And I would like people to embrace the civil service reforms because it's going to ensure that we put the right people in the right places to do the job. So I don't want the doctors to be frustrated because the medicine is not there. I don't want the nurses to be frustrated because the linens are not clean. So the whole system, for the whole system to work effectively, from the gardener cleaning the compound to the dietitian planning the menu for the patients, the nurses doing the job, to the lab tech doing the job, to the clinicians doing the job, to the surgeons doing the job, everybody has to do it. So the whole idea of us in any system is for every person to take responsibility of the job that you do. There's a system in place. So at the ministry level now, we are trying to strengthen those systems to ensure that there's monitoring of work. And like I said, if everybody does what he or she is supposed to do, there we go. We're going to have a perfect health system. But again, that's going to take some time. We will need attitudinal changes. We will need some more sort of sound leadership and management practices. We will need to monitor people. So that's what we are trying to do. So like I'm talking about the new modern and health facilities. Of course we are building. I'm very proud of our Makoi facility, that is the new Makoi Maternity Health Center. Now we're doing the new Navosta Subdivisional Hospital, and of course the pride would be our CWM Maternity Hospital. Just to name a few, infrastructure developments will continue. We will have to continue with that to meet up with the demands of our people. But again, apart from building modernized facilities, we also need to look at modern equipment. Now to get modern equipment, to run this modern equipment, we need local expertise. So that's something else that we need to look at. One of the issues that normally I face, again, like I said, is the reporting time. The MRI reports and all those reports that need to go to people. Sometimes we take maximum 2, 3 or 4 weeks to provide a report to a person. So again, we are working with some international partners as to how we can use e-medicine, telemedicine, to ensure that the reports are read somewhere else and the feedback is provided to the patients within 2 to 12 hours. That's again in process. And so the budget-wise, like I said, from the government commitment, budget has never been an issue for us. We have budgetary allocations for all this work. But like I said, you need to request your leaders, your MSs, the DMOs need to ensure that this budget is capitalized on. And again, just a little bit touching on civil service reforms. Like I said, the government through civil service reforms is trying to modernize civil service, okay? And greater recognition for you and the work that you do, and of course that comes up with greater benefit. I think for the first time over the last couple of years, we have paid doctors more than they were ever paid for. And of course the expectation that comes with it is you're going to do your job right, okay? So I'm sure we don't need to worry about that. So ladies and gentlemen, we've had, this year's budget has given us additional positions for the more demanding services, like the allied health workers have got extra, I think, 46 positions, so we'll be able to absorb more new graduates coming in. And in terms of supporting our teaching institutions, yes, we continue to support the Fiji National University and the University of Fiji in training healthcare professionals, especially doctors at the regional in the region at undergraduate and postgraduate level. Again, if I may say, the onus is on these universities to provide and give us quality doctors. Same thing with the nursing institutions. And I understand this year marks the 20th year of postgraduate training at the Fiji National University's College of Medicine, Nursing and Health Sciences. And again, it's a tremendous achievement at country level. Ladies and gentlemen, through government's ongoing support, the postgrad doctors also get international exposure at centers of medical excellence abroad. And of course, when you come back, you have enhanced knowledge and skills to come back and serve our people. We have, for 2018 and 2019, our budgetary allocation stands at 355 million for the new financial year. And of course, there is an increased focus on prevailing disease load with 8.1 million to address NCD crisis and other related areas. I think at the forefront of your discussions, you should always keep NCDs, as this is probably one of the serious issues that is plaguing not only Fiji and the Pacific. Positive, workable solutions need to be found, and again, we look forward for your guidance in ensuring we come up with probably more active strategies to counter NCDs in the country. But again, NCDs should not overshadow the other areas of work that we do here. Ladies and gentlemen, again, if I may just put briefly, there's a lot of pressure on the government in providing dialysis services for our people. We made it very clear we will not completely make it free. You and all I can understand the moment we say dialysis is free, what's going to happen? What's going to happen to the NCD figures? Okay? People will say, okay, it doesn't matter. I need dialysis, it's there. Okay? Fiji is not in a position to provide NCD kidney dialysis free. I think even if we're in a position, I would not support that because it completely contradicts to what we are preaching. Prevention is better than cure. So subsidy, yes, it's a good thing that we are subsidizing. And again, we'll have 2 centers in Suva and Nandi, and we are trying to bring the cost half of to what it's causing. It's been charged in Fiji at the moment. Of course, not compromising on the quality of the consumables. That is always going to be that's always going to be a priority for us. We will not compromise on the quality of consumables that's going to be used in order to bring the cost down. That assurance I can give to you and the public out there. And again, the establishment of our new kidney research and treatment center is well underway. And as a government, as a ministry, we will continue, like I said, upgrading our infrastructure and medical equipment as well as information technology. We focus on what is now available in the market as being our key priorities. We have a lot of machines that need to go. We are looking at equipment that needs to go and bringing in more new, modern, state-of-art equipment for our people. Again, this is just one side of the coin. The other side is people. Like I said, Ministry of Health is people. It's serving our people and the people who are providing the service, that's you and I. So that's where you come in. Like I said, the other side of the coin is you and I who work to provide the services, and this is where your expertise, Dr. Wanga, your association, the College of General Practitioners and other professional bodies that work with medical can join in and make a significant impact. So we look at doctors and health professionals as leaders in health, whether in service delivery or health education. Health promotion, I think also we need to strengthen health promotion. I was having a chat with during reproductive health seminar, said that we need to go back to the basics, simple things. I like it when I hear the ad on the radio. Use a soap, wash your hand, simple things like that. Where has that gone? You know, in the school system, I think when you and I went to school, we had teachers checking our nails, whether it was clean or not. We were reminded after coming out from the washroom, wash your hands. Something has happened to that. We now have to remind people to that. So health promotion, I think, should also be a priority for us. Going back to basics, washing your hands, brushing your teeth, keeping the area clean, disposing rubbish. Rubbish again is an issue for us. You might say, well, I'm a health professional and rubbish is not an issue for us. Environment is not an issue for us. Climate change is not, no. It's an issue for you and I. Climate change, food security, too much dependence on processed foods, NCDs. So I think I would like to urge the training institutions to ensure that these are incorporated in the curriculum so that we have a whole holistic approach to this. When we were going through teacher training, our professors, our lecturers would teach us about hidden curriculum. So what is hidden curriculum? We know what a curriculum is. So what is a hidden curriculum? So I think even in medicine, we have a lot of things that's hidden that need to be incorporated. You can't, as a clinician, you can't say, well, my job is just to see the person has a headache, diagnose, prescribe, and off you go. I think it's more than that. Couple of minutes, couple of seconds spent with your patient talking about these issues, I think it's going to make a difference, because medical professionals are looked upon by the community. While we come to that, I think we made it very clear that your safety is also important to us. We've made it very clear that communities who do not, who abuse our medical staff, who harass our medical staff, they will have disruptions to the services. And we did that in the South when our staff was. So those are some of the things we are looking at. We are ensuring that we make the public understand the work that you do, especially in hard rural areas. You go out to save the people, and the people must give you due respect that you deserve. So we will also look after you there. So, like I said, ladies and gentlemen, you are very important to our healthcare settings, and we expect you to take a lead role in planning, organizing, and delivering the agreed set of actions for our service delivery. There is no doubt that the realities of modern medicine provides greater challenges now than ever. The rapid advances in medicine, a well-informed patient, and access to more medical information than ever, and the demand for latest treatment of complex diseases and increasing cost pressure relating to healthcare can make health a challenge, and I'm sure you and I are both going through that. However, given the training and your expertise and your exposure, I'm sure you are in a very unique position of insight to give the best that you have to the people and lead all aspects of health services. Finally, ladies and gentlemen, I believe that doctors here especially should not only lead in the delivery of service, but also in the quality, improving quality of the service. You should be in the forefront of quality improvement and quality service through consistent engagement and collaboration in the improvement processes, setting up standards of best practices, and initiating innovative and quality improvement projects to uplift the health services. And most importantly, you should also lead in enhancing the patient experience. That's also very important. Sometimes we forget the patient experience. What is the patient experience when he meets up with you? So any patient who accesses our healthcare facilities must go back with a satisfied experience. And by this, like I said, I mean you should interact with people. Again, a concern rate, sometimes families raise concern that we are not told what is wrong with our family member. Well, I understand your job has other bits of work too. You cannot be sitting in, but maybe a couple of minutes to reassure the family members, the spouse or the child, okay, this is it and this is what we are doing, and you are the best judge of that. So information must go to the families about what's happening. And again, as medical professionals, we need to be compassionate, very compassionate. Of course, we need to be kind and empathetic and support the patient and the families in whatever consequences are. Sometimes they look forward to doctors as being listeners. They want you to listen to their concerns. And like I said, you might not have time to listen, but spare a few seconds and make the patient or make the family feel that you are listening. And it takes away half their worries. Smiling, caring, compassion. I know sometimes when you walk in challenging situations, it's very difficult to put a smile on your face when you pressure from every side. But please, we are all human beings. Smile. Any dentist here will tell you what a smile does. Actually, I don't know. A smile does a lot of things. Gives a word of reassurance. Even without saying, you can reassure the patient or the family, okay, it's going to be all right. But I know sometimes it's not going to be all right, and you don't want to give a false assurance. So be honest enough and say, okay, it's a very critical condition. We are doing what we all can do. Okay, so ladies and gentlemen, I think you belong to a very respected members of this professional. So at all times, please keep that image up. Uphold the values of your profession. That's also very important. And before I sit down, I think you and I should be role models of healthy living, right? We hear about losing our colleagues to this disease, to that condition, it's said. So it's important that you look after your health as well. Okay? What we preach, we should also practice. Sometimes when the lift of my building goes down and they show me the stairs, it takes me a second to say, oh, can I take the stairs? I think we should do that. So if we're teaching that to the people, we should be. If we're teaching people to exercise, we should exercise. If we're teaching people to eat healthy, well, let's eat healthy ourselves. Okay? Sometimes we do go overboard, but anyways, there's always ways to burn up those extra calories. So, ladies and gentlemen, thank you very much. And like I said, let me commend you once again for the wonderful work that you do. I'd also like to encourage you to keep building your skills and knowledge. Any training opportunities that comes your way, please go for it and be loyal to what you do. And yeah, I'm sure you all, today's the last day? Are you ending that? No? For all those of you who have traveled across, and for those of you who will be going home after a couple of days, I wish you a safe journey. Our roads are not that safe, drive safe, okay? Your families are waiting for you, and I hope that your final day deliberation is successful and goes long and proves to be a learning experience. So with these words, thank you once again, and God bless you all.